Finally, Henrik tries to punch him, but Valier hits him from above again and puts a foot on his face, asking why he constantly bothers him, when he has never done anything to provoke him. Valier then warns Henrik, with the students watching the exchange, that if he ever uses his superpower against him again, he will make sure to hit him until he is unconscious. The students who have been watching the confrontation fall into stunned silence. When they gather later in the dining hall, the news about what happened has spread quickly. Most of the students avoid making eye contact with Valier, clearly distancing themselves from him. Then Berdis approaches Valier at the dining table and tells him he wants to talk to him in private. As they leave the dining hall, the cool night air surrounds them, and the moon shines brightly enough for them to see each other clearly. Without wasting any more time, Berdis offers Valier tea, which surprises him, since he did not expect such a simple invitation. Valier accepts, although he remains curious about why Berdis would call him just to have tea. Meanwhile, Berdis watches Valier closely and notices that despite Valier's casual conversation, he does not let his guard down. This makes Berdis reflect on the fact that Valier might be afraid of him because of his reputation among his peers. Valier, for his part, wonders if Berdis, as a future swordmaster, could somehow contain him in this meeting. However, his thoughts dissipate when Berdis finally speaks, after serving the tea, and begins explaining that he called him because people are upset with him. Valier, confused, asks what he means by that. Berdis clarifies that people are afraid of him, and he has come to speak on their behalf. Then he expresses his admiration for how Valier defended the temple against Care, who had been speaking negatively about him. Berdis explains that he has always wanted to be a patriot of the temple, and believes that if he associates with Valier, others might follow his example. Valier is even more confused at this point. He had expected something more hostile, like being yelled at or reproached. However, Berdis continues shifting the conversation toward the recent incident with Henrik. Berdis tells him that what Valier did with Henrik was seen as rude and disrespectful. Some students begin to think that Valier mistreats people because he has powerful connections or a secret family backing him. Even rumors circulate that he might be an unrevealed member of the imperial family. Berdis asks Valier directly if he really has such connections. Valier, now understanding the direction of the conversation, replies no, and Berdis nods in response. Then he explains that Valier does not need a family name or connections to defend himself. He tells Valier that from his point of view, Valier is doing what anyone should do, defend themselves instead of being intimidated or belittled by his peers. Valier can feel the weight of Berdis's words persisting as he contemplates the conversation. Berdis's disbelief about his lack of family connections takes him by surprise, but also reinforces Valier's internal understanding that he has been living in a world where his confidence is often mistaken for something else. Berdis, although surprised, seems to understand the truth in Valier's response. The way he holds his teacup becomes an indication to Berdis that Valier is not lying. His manners are too simple for a noble to possess. Despite Berdis's warning that revealing such things might not be beneficial for him outside the temple, Valier remains firm. He is not looking to hide behind the veil of connections, since if anything happens to him, he will make sure Henrik takes the blame, making the royal family's name a collateral victim. The conversation takes a turn when Valier, standing by the moonlit window, reflects on why he loves the temple so much. It is more than just a place of learning. It is where someone like him who came from the streets, he can rise solely with his talent, Berdis with his calculating mind. He seems to respect Valier's loyalty to the temple, but his philosophy is different. He speaks critically about the caste system of the ants, where rank and position are the only things that matter, and how someone in a higher position is allowed arrogance. Valier, always perceptive, catches the message. Berdis's plea that he too is a person of rank who must assert control, regardless of the individuals around him. However, Valier questions the need for such an attitude, why Berdis has to treat everyone below him with such disdain. Berdis responds, pointing out that Valier's eloquence and composure imply he is not from the streets. Despite Valier's outward appearance, he has been pressured in this conversation. But Berdis warns he will continue probing into his past to discover who Valier really is. Our hero was very upset. In fact, he wasn't even a beggar, but Berdis put his hand on his shoulder and told him that was not the point of his request. He simply asked our hero to control himself. Our hero said with a deep sigh that he would simply try, but it would only work if at least everyone spoke with him. Berdis also said they would have more important things to talk about. Once he ensured his safety, he smiled and wished our hero a good night. But our hero only got chills from Berdis the next day. Our hero realized that Berdis was right. Berdis had told him to control himself. Our hero understood it was all in vain, because he did not listen to Berdis. Then we understand that at one point our hero finally had a day off at the academy, and 2 whole days had passed since our hero's last conversation with Berdis. Our hero even thought he did not want to deny the rumors about him. Maybe he even wanted everything to resolve itself. But our hero and Berdis could hardly be called friends at all. But they could talk to each other in a relaxed environment. Now he was even sure everyone said Berdis. It was so good he could get along with the guy. But thanks to this, our hero's spirits were avoided by almost everyone except Ludwig. But today our hero had a day off, which meant he had nothing to do in the dormitory, because he could no longer awaken the spirits. In the end, our hero decided to visit Loja. When she arrived, he asked how she lived there because everyone there this year had managed to succeed, only the princess and the prince. Then he asked if it was dangerous to go there with them, but our hero said none of that had happened, and at least it seemed to him that the prince liked him. However, Loja thought twice. It seemed dangerous to her, but our hero was sure that if nothing happened he could at least escape with that same ring. But if possible, he would like to ask Sarka and her for a favor. He told them it could be that the princess had an ability, but only a few people knew what it was. Loja was convinced of that, but she said it was not very important because she did not feel comfortable being near someone whose past she did not know. Loja said she would tell everything to Sarka, but she still managed to warn him that our hero should not contact them personally. To our hero's question of why, she answered it would be too suspicious to see someone he did not know. However, Loja had also said that our hero was being watched all the time. Our hero could not believe it, nor who exactly, but Loja suggested it was his classmates. Although now they had nothing to do, still, our hero should be careful because she admitted she had been careless and let someone spy on him. She had guessed it, but they only wanted to know where his confidence came from. So it was worth refraining from meeting Loja's gang. For the moment there was even the possibility that Berdis them he would have sent towards him, but when he entered the bedroom he realized immediately that they thought he was a poor man. They asked him why our hero hung out with the vagabonds under the bridge, but our hero was not hiding anything, and said he lived on the street, so all those scenes his companions acted out were just to mock a poor man like him. They asked why he was so confident, but our hero said they were fed up with him, they couldn't even calm down. He also told them they shouldn't get involved with him, especially after they found out about his past. They started attacking him again, saying that since he was a beggar he wouldn't dare open his mouth. But our hero said that at least now they were talking to someone who had fully lived life on the street. He approached them and said, "Aren't you afraid I'll stab you in the back when you walk away?" Then he approached one of them and mentioned that he shouldn't deal with those who had nothing to lose. He also pointed out that if they expected our hero to apologize, he only asked for a reason at that moment. Swartz began to say he should apologize, but our hero approached him and started poking him in the eye, saying he could take out his left eye to show him what his first brother was like. All the students started trembling, and our hero asked, "Did you really think I would tolerate insults just because you were more talented than me, or simply because you came from rich families?" But he told them if they tried to do this, that is, touch him in any way, our hero, it would do things to them. They couldn't even imagine, he told them, that in fact it would be a kind of honor. He asked them to enjoy their quiet life, to enjoy their lives in peace while they could, and then he closed the door behind them. All the students watched this and understood that our hero was a guy. Our hero, lying in his room, thought only about the fact that they were really watching him, Henrik, but still understood it was because of this conversation they would think he was a vagabond. Berdis had asked him to hold back, but it would still be much better if they avoided him too. Now, the most important thing was to know how to unlock self-influence. He didn't know what to do, but there was a constant knocking on his door. He started to get annoyed and wondered why he could never rest. However, in the end he opened the door, and there was Alan. She said they were calling them to the hall. Our hero asked who, but the only answer was that probably the seniors. The seniors told them immediately to do push-ups in a lying position. Everyone kept doing them, but only our hero stayed still. The senior told all the other companions of our hero that he probably had a hearing problem, so once again he asked him to do push-ups. But our hero didn't understand why he should listen to such a small girl. He asked what our hero was doing. He basically had the feeling that his head was the size of a walnut, so he should get a good beating. The middle school girl started to say something with her feet underneath her, but our hero told her directly that he didn't care who she was, so he asked her to leave before he slapped her. She started to ask why he was doing that, but our hero asked her not to get nervous, because if she wanted him to treat her properly, at least not to bother her during the break. But she started screaming and just ran away crying, saying she wouldn't get away with it. Our hero asked his friends why they kept doing push-ups and asked them to explain what had happened, but when they told him, he had fun because he didn't even know it was some kind of tradition for the first year class after all. To ensure students didn't abuse their strength over older girls or ignorant origins, they were assigned a kind of disciplinary work with the first-year students. Our hero realized that this was done to avoid sharing the laurels with Class B. But when our hero was about to leave, one of his classmates asked if he was ready to take responsibility for his performance. Our hero asked what could go wrong, but she said that the older kids might hate them, but our hero didn't care. That's because they couldn't sleep at night or go to school. They could only tell the teachers, and they were afraid of them. Suddenly the girl started screaming, saying it was most likely our hero's fault. So if something went wrong, he would be to blame. But our hero didn't understand, and as soon as he raised his hand toward her, he realized he should have kicked her in the face. She started walking backward again, but at that moment the high school boys burst through the door asking who dared to humiliate their classmate. Right at that moment, the little girl pointed at our hero, and he thought he couldn't do anything since she was calling someone to help her. They asked his name, but he didn't care what his origin story was, because he never understood how the royal classes were organized. But our hero immediately said he wasn't a noble. People started asking where he came from, but our hero pointed to himself and said he was a simple street vagabond, not a noble nor a lord of the imperial family. The boy asked him if he really dared to behave that way, but our hero told him that a person's status didn't play such an important role in his situation. At that moment the protagonist got punched in the face, which made him realize that he definitely was not a weak guy. The boy came toward him saying that in that case, our hero would have to break a couple of his bones. Our hero started getting beaten up. Because he had to honor the traditions of the royal class, he tried to defend himself but immediately dodged. They started calling him a weakling. He was about to finish receiving the beating, while all the students watched horrified, but our hero grabbed his enemy by the testicles and squeezed them hard, asked if he was done with his nonsense. The boy asked to be let go because it hurt a lot, but our hero told him not to move, or he would just rip them off at the root. Our hero wondered if that was all a high school boy could do, but then he asked all the upperclassmen to stop. He said he was going to do everything he had planned, asked them to stay away from him or he would rip their dignity out at the root. The seniors shouted, but our hero begged them to let him go, to have mercy on him. But our hero's classmates started really seeing him as a monster. The boy apologized, but our hero didn't forgive him. But as soon as he fainted from the pain, our hero decided he had had enough. He immediately got up and said they could hit him all they wanted, but next time he would definitely get revenge. He also gave the boy another punch in the face, and asked his classmates to get him out of his sight. A girl shouted that our hero was a pervert, but he didn't care. Another girl approached our hero, and asked why he was behaving that way, but our hero answered that he had started it. However, our hero looked at her and couldn't understand if she really wanted to talk to him after what she had done. They started introducing themselves, and we found out her name was Adriana. She said they didn't do it voluntarily. It was simply a tradition among the high school boys. She also said that her friend Regina was very kind, that it even hurt her to make someone do something. Our hero asked why she couldn't just say no, but she said if they didn't do it, and others would, or rather the third years. She also commented that in high school it became very difficult to control their strength. So if our hero continued with that spirit, our hero would be in trouble with the third years. He told them to come to him because they made them do that. He told them to come not today but tomorrow. He wondered if they would be able to make Berdis obey them. On Monday night, our hero sat next to Berdis and told him everything. Berdis asked if he was using his name. Our hero was incredibly proud, but he told him if he knew that the magic classes had that tradition, and he wondered why they hadn't come for him. Apparently they had decided to be cautious, but Berdis asked why our hero had called them for Monday, so they could make fun of him, but our hero probably thought that they would simply reject his invitation, but if they accepted it would be fun. Berdis didn't see anything funny, or rather he didn't understand it, but our hero, with a crazy smile on his face, said he would like to see the face of those who wanted to touch the Prince of the Empire, but Berdis wanted to say that our hero used his name, even though he thought of him more as a classmate than a friend. Our hero couldn't understand if he had any knowledge at all, but Berdis just said that the punishment for something like that would be the annihilation of 3 generations of his family. However, he thought that if our hero had used it, it was fair to use it. Our hero said that in some classes their paths crossed with those of his half-sister, so he simply asked them to watch her and to let him know if they learned something curious about her. At that moment, Berdis asked if he had already corrected his position in class, but our hero said that by his standards, he had even managed to get along and that he had even saved them today. However, as he walked to his room, he thought that calling the Duke's daughter like that was a bit rude, but he knew she had already told Berdis about the incident while thinking about her. He saw her drinking tea and reading a book, but when she saw our hero, she simply moved away from him. Our hero couldn't help her childish reaction, so he called her again idiot. She began to blush and asked him not to call her that. But our hero asked if that wasn't her name, and he said it without thinking. He said many people said she was smart, but when he looked at her, he immediately thought she was an idiot. She got angry immediately and shouting, put her cup on the saucer, saying she was only trying to provoke her and make her be called an idiot. Our hero said he hadn't even thought about doing that, but she started yelling and asking why our hero did that to her. Our hero, he covered his ears and said it was just very funny, because every time she reacted that way, he couldn't stop laughing, and who could miss the chance to see such a show? She asked what was funny, but our hero simply said it was adorable. She started yelling at him and asking what he had said, but our hero decided to tell her again that she really was very nice. But that even if she was a genius or something like that, kids to him would always be cute. He said he liked her because she acted like a child, that was all. Then he asked her to go to bed or she wouldn't grow. Then he closed the door behind him. When the door closed, the girl was completely surprised by what she had just heard. She couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about. On Monday before the meeting, the third years came to his class and said they called him to a duel because he had undermined the family's honor. Our hero didn't understand what duel they were talking about at all. But the boy said that the choice of time and place was always his, and there would be an observer to make sure everything was fair. However, our hero asked if it turned out he tried to hit the first year, but he grabbed him by the testicles. And now he asked for a duel because his honor had been damaged. The little one shouted that it wasn't fair, but our hero said that was not fair for him because they were just there watching as the big guy, ignoring his difference in strength, tried to turn it into a bloody massacre. The boy said that if our hero tried or wanted to refuse the duel, that would immediately mean he had lost the duel, and in that case our hero, it would prove to everyone that he could only win using dirty tricks. A flash shone in front of them, and in a moment our hero accepted the challenge. The little girl was surprised, but the boy asked our hero to remember one thing. He said he wouldn't fall for his cheap trick a second time, and that he wouldn't give in just because our hero was weaker than him. He would always make sure Valier understood that he should not undermine the authority of his elders. When our hero went down the stairs, he met the little girl. She wanted to say something, but our hero was in a hurry to see his homeroom teacher. She was shouting that Art is a little kid, but our hero was sure Art wouldn't kill him. The girl was furious. She said our hero had no strength, and that he should just go and apologize because she told him she would forgive him if he apologized sincerely. But our hero just smiled and said that's life, since if he had to take the hit himself, then so be it. He began to walk away, but he still knew for sure he wouldn't have accepted such an obviously unfair duel because he was angry or anything like that. He did it because of the stressful situation, to unlock exactly the self-infusion skill. After all, it's the only skill our hero has, although it goes without saying that our hero is nervous but not ready to leave this skill locked forever immediately. A window with a new task appeared in front of our hero. It gave our hero 600 experience points for victory, or 200 for defeat. Our hero looked at all this and thought his downfall was already predestined. But nevertheless, 200 experience points, they were still a great sum judging by his situation. However, he understood that if there was a small chance of winning, he could avoid the duel if he started the duel. He would be rewarded then, so why would there be a reward for it? However, despite all this, our hero felt somewhat uncomfortable, because the duel would take place in 2 weeks in the training room, which is in the dormitory. His homeroom teacher would be the observer. Although he trembles when he meets him, but the rumors didn't take long to arrive. Ludwig immediately began asking our hero about what had happened. They asked him to apologize, but our hero asked them to stop talking, because he was escaping at that moment. Our hero was very tired after training, but Charlotte had called him at one point. She asked him for something and then ran off, but when he opened the letter, it said that our hero had to wait for her in the classroom after school. He stayed, but couldn't understand what she wanted. When she arrived, our hero asked her what all this was about, but Charlotte told him to be quiet, because she knew who our hero was. He immediately asked what she meant by that, but she just said she didn't want to communicate with someone like him before. But when she heard that our hero was from a poor family, she decided to investigate. She found out where our hero was from, what kind of people lived there, and with which organization the gang our hero belonged to was connected. Our hero understood that she was talking about his gang, the Rounds, but we all understand that she doesn't know he is from a demon family. However, she was able to find other information. It was true that a gang of Rounds hired employees from the Thieves Guild. She had even been able to find out everything with a small test. All this surprised her a lot, because this showed all her power. It even seemed like there was nothing in the world she couldn't control. Charlotte immediately said that our hero shouldn't even try to justify those criminals who seemed like dirty insects after all. The city guards would simply start cleaning the dirty drains. If she wanted, Our hero asked what she wanted, and seemed to realize that she wanted something from him, but she only wanted our hero to find the boy she had shown him at the beginning. He thought it couldn't be true, because that was him in the photo. She also said she didn't care about anything else. Our hero would just have to tell us every step of his journey, and that this was not a task for the temple mark, but generally the most important assignment of his life. She also said that our hero must not dare to tell Berdis, because if he did, she would kill everyone in his organization. She told our hero to find the boy, no matter the cost. Our hero went out into the hallway and thought only about finding himself, but he had a strange feeling about it. Apparently she thought that since he was a poor student who had entered the temple, he would be the most suitable for the job. At first, Charlotte seemed cunning to our hero, but that was not the case. Her eyes full of emotions said it all for her. Charlotte was only capable of studying his past quickly and tenaciously, but she didn't seem capable of reasoning rationally after all. He had certainly heard everything from his knight Darius and began to doubt, but she seemed sincere, as if she was asking to find someone dear to her, and our hero simply couldn't calm down because he was up to his neck in work looking for valet. And yet he had not the slightest doubt. However, he did not despair, because thinking about it, one can begin to doubt oneself. The boy who suddenly disappeared after helping him in the castle, demon, and also the boy whose identity is unknown, and who appears suddenly after a long disappearance, but still our hero was glad that Charlotte still suspected nothing. However, it was also a pity that he could not be found, because if he repeated these lies again, he would become a huge OS that would slit his throat. Besides, this would not only harm him, but also Hola and Loja and Sarka. Our hero simply cannot allow his identity to be revealed so easily. Definitely, he will need to discuss everything with all his subordinates. While our hero thought about all this, a girl came in, called him beggar, and our hero responded immediately. She started laughing because our hero had responded to that nickname, but our hero saw nothing wrong with it, since in reality, he was a beggar. She understood that she would not get an answer from him, so she asked him if he was really going to fight, and if he would be severely beaten because he wouldn't be a worthy opponent. Our hero answered coldly that it didn't matter much if they hit him or even killed him at that moment. The girl asked why he was willing to fight if he wasn't even ready to do it, but our hero said he didn't know, because most likely they would kick his head. Our hero observed the whole situation, and thought only that he should stop thinking about the whole situation with Charlotte, because the most important thing was the battle in 2 weeks. However, he wouldn't do anything if they killed him. The only thing he wanted was to unlock his ability. However, anyway, he would need to become stronger, to be sure to be at least a little prepared for the battle. He arrived at the training hall and decided firmly that from today on he would train with a sword. After all, the exemplary students who spent all day perfecting their moves were Cliffman and Ellen. He was even 100% sure that they had never spoken to each other, so he had no hopes that introverts like them would help him. After all he knew, it was what was written in the book about sword control. He knew he only had to learn the art of handling a sword, not just swinging it. So he decided he would use everything he had learned during the last week of training. He even wanted to relive his memories. He had already run toward the target with his attack, but he immediately fell in front of it. He realized that obviously he still had a lot to do to perfect his skills. He was close to the target almost all day, hitting it over and over again. He even got blisters on his hands, but he kept wondering how Eleni Cliffman did it every day. After all, even if it was for the sake of battle, he would have to get used to such training. Surely he couldn't be a helpless dog forever. However, he realized and calmed down because the third years didn't approach him today. They probably didn't even want to touch the prince, but they kept forcing the second year to do those kinds of things. However, the moment he thought about this, the door opened behind him. She said that Regina had come to see her and asked her to calm our hero down and dissuade him from everything. Our hero thought Regina was really too kind. I thought he should have done it with her at that very moment. The girl said she knew our hero had a plan, but still said he couldn't win, because there were only 2 weeks left. She also told him that if he lost, it would be very bad for him, but if he apologized now, this useless battle wouldn't even take place. She said the art wasn't as bad as our hero thought. However, he replied that he didn't think the art was bad, because he only wanted to get something. The girl was very strange, but she raised her sword and began to show him her moves. He didn't understand what she was doing, but she turned to him and told him to follow her. Our hero understood that there was nothing he couldn't do, so he took the sword in his hands and began. However, his first attempt was bad, so much so that even the girl didn't understand what he was doing since it looked like a joke. She asked for our hero's hands. However, as soon as she took them, she realized they were useless at that moment. She began to use her light magic on his hands. Our hero didn't understand what she was doing. but she immediately said she had just used one of the most important skills of the sacred knights, which removed pain and fatigue from the muscles. He shaved once more. For now he could do it. Our hero raised his sword, and realized he would have to try for sure. He immediately approached his target, but the girl said he already had almost everything, even his base, so at dawn the next day she would show him everything. Our hero got up much earlier the next day, so he was exhausted while yawning. However, the girl also came out to meet him. She said they should start with a jog. Our hero wondered if that would affect his performance, if she helped him, but she really didn't care. And neither did he. He just had to teach our hero how to fight and get physically fit, because he had never heard of art that tortured weak juniors for such ridiculous reasons. Besides, she said it was our hero who should worry about his physical condition, because he couldn't even be called weak. Our hero asked if she knew what harassment meant, but she didn't know that word. However, she smiled and said to try his best. She said if our hero was already warmed up, they should start. She ran, but our hero couldn't keep up with her pace. She clearly didn't like it. But our hero kept pushing because if he didn't speed up, she would fall asleep after one step. Our hero couldn't understand what he felt all the time, while the light magic was used on him, but the girl said it had to be like that. Our hero only thought that if the Sacred Knights ran a marathon he would definitely win, but the girl said that if he was still able to talk, then they should definitely speed up. Our hero understood the hint, so he became a bit quieter. They started talking even while running, talking about Ludwig, but already within 3 hours. They had managed to train their endurance and develop their muscles when our hero fainted from exhaustion. Adriana treated him with her divine power, and before leaving, said that if our hero couldn't endure that kind of training, then they should increase the amount of food he ate and do it as often as possible. Starting to eat more, our hero said his body was only mentally tired, but otherwise fine. He headed to his room, but realized he would have to wait until lunchtime. However, he realized he could use the kitchen that had food, so he decided to eat something. He even understood that the royal class's personal kitchen, in charge of food and assimilation of all necessary nutrients, for the royal class students, was equipped with the best chefs and dishes, so that was where you could always find something to eat day and night, exactly the same kitchen where there were pre-prepared products, and chefs who prepared any dish from the empire. And Helen was also there, although our hero knew she liked to eat. Due to constant training, she got tired quickly, so we could say she was a regular visitor of that kitchen, but he still remembered that she was the one who ate more than the others. He approached her and asked if everything left was on the table, but actually the dried meat was the last chance to save oneself. Our hero asked if it was good, but it seemed like all she needed was something to chew, so Valier decided not to take that piece of food from her. Something to eat. He entered the kitchen and realized there were enough ingredients. He realized cooking was too exhausting, so he decided to do something easy. He started frying something that made Ellen's mouth water. He cooked some eggs and gave them to Ellen. He asked her to stop eating the tasteless dried meat and handed her his plate. He told her he had plenty of eggs and meat, but Ellen said she hadn't tried it. However, our hero was sure that if she never tried it, she would never know anything about it. He asked if she trusted him, so much that she wouldn't even try what he had prepared. But our hero told her to enjoy it, and she started eating it very quickly. He didn't understand why she ate so fast. She should have tried it like a normal person, but our hero looked at her plate and asked what he would eat now. He also wanted to eat, but she just said she was hungry, so it really wasn't her fault. Our hero asked if she knew they had class together, and if she did, he would go look for her. He even thought that if something went wrong, he would make that nasty soup again, but when he looked in the mirror, he saw that his strength had increased by 0.5, his reaction by 0.3, and his physical endurance by 0.6. He didn't even know why, but it had also increased by 0.1. However, the only reason to do all this was the battle in 2 weeks. He had no talent, so that's why he kept banging his head on the ground. But looking in the mirror, he believed he could achieve something. He would have to become someone who was a man of words, but also in combat, because the battle in 2 weeks, the relationship with Berdis and Charlotte, and the door that would appear soon. However, he knew there was no time to act, since he had to awaken the self-infusion skill as soon as possible. Our hero met him again a few days later. He watched her eat the same disgusting soup, and was even surprised she had come. He watched her eat the same disgusting soup, and was even surprised that she had come. He even thought that maybe it was because of the free babies he had offered them. But still, Ellen seemed incredible to him because she had such an appetite due to her training. He asked her why she looked more like a beggar since she had eaten all her food. She looked at the soup and said that next time she would be the one serving it to our hero. He didn't understand why she really wanted to build their date and actually thought he wasn't such a bad guy. But he understood that opening that door had been a disaster caused by his recklessness. It's because he only wants to save as many people as possible. After the door arrives, but still, when he's so tired that his hands tremble non-stop, and his breath barely reaches the edge of his chin. He doesn't even have a disturbing thought in his mind. However, he takes a step forward and swings his sword again then. He has no right to regret or show weakness. Now our hero is just a guy who will someday become the Demon King. But as soon as he entered the kitchen, he saw Ellen eating sausages. Our hero looked for food and tried to find something because he also needed something to eat. But after checking all the cupboards, he saw there was nothing left. He looked and couldn't understand. Ellen had really eaten all the leftovers. He went to her and asked if she had eaten everything that was available. He said the sausages. Cold didn't taste good and could be fried, but Ellen said she was too lazy. Our hero couldn't believe Ellen couldn't cook, but he knew that if she fried them, they would be enough for two. He didn't have the strength to cook. So he told her to do whatever. He told her he put the knife in her hand and noticed she worked with him like a real cook. He couldn't believe she worked and with him like that for the first time. He even told her that if she wanted to become a cook, she could surely achieve it. He controlled each of her movements, and at one point they made something and our hero thought it didn't look so good but smelled delicious. He even told her to memorize the recipe, because next time she would cook for him. Ellen was lazy, so she immediately put it in her mouth. Our hero began to worry because the soup was hot, but Ellen didn't feel anything. She just started enjoying her food. But after enjoying it, she felt pain. Our hero couldn't understand if she was so dumb. Since she still had that hot thing in her mouth, he started yelling at her to spit it out or swallow it. Instead of just banging her head on the table, he brought her water and asked if it was really better than eating raw sausage. But Ellen said she had prepared everything. But our hero said he only guided her hands. He couldn't understand if Ellen wanted to fight with him or why she argued. But Ellen decided to say they had done everything together. Our hero decided to agree, but recognized that he had done it again. But when he went to his room, he saw a maid. One of his friends had sent her. But at that moment she told him what she was doing. It had been a long time since she had seen her master. She was Zarka, but our hero no longer cared about anything. He only cared about how she had entered his room, but at that moment he said it wasn't important, because now they would talk about the princess's abilities, which our hero had asked about. Our hero was surprised she really did everything so fast. Zarka said she had done everything but was trapped. She said that the people in the palace have different opinions about the princess's abilities. The prince's supporters doubt that the princess is hiding something, because all those rumors are false. Our hero understood that this meant no one knew about the princess's abilities, not even the prince, so it was very likely that some of the emperor's men found out. Our hero understood that the Class B master was very strong and that the professor responsible for the princess's education. But our hero asked what kind of security Zarka was referring to. She said that if there are people who know about this, he can disguise himself as one of them. But there are very few, so it will be difficult to know exactly who knows all the details. Our hero began to think, because the whole situation was really strange, since almost no one knew anything about the princess. After all, if she really has what she is supposed to have, then it is a force she does not like, which is why she tries to hide the others' matters. Zarka thought the same, so he said they should do it if it was so dangerous. But they would have to go outside to do it. Zarka thought that was wise. But our hero said he had to talk to her. Zarka started listening immediately, but our hero only said that the princess was looking for him. Zarka didn't understand anything, so our hero decided to explain everything in a simpler way. He said everything, and also remembered that he thought the temple was too dangerous a place for a ruler. However, Zarka just decided to say that the debt with the princess would be an incredible headache for them. So our hero asked if Zarka really wanted him to solve this problem. After all, he didn't know exactly what to do in the temple, and wanted him to deceive for a long time. He just wanted him to blackmail the princess just to get her out of his way. However, Zarka said it would only be great to start with what they would do after talking to the princess. Our hero also decided that they would do exactly that, because if he took care of things, there would be a chance she would throw him into the cauldron, boiling alive. But if he was useless, most likely they would do something worse. So our hero decided to act orderly. He said at least they wouldn't touch him as long as they saw he was working. Our hero had hoped with all his heart that Charlotte wouldn't become his enemy after all. Birdie would be interested in him as long as he was useful. Charlotte wouldn't leave him alone while he searched for the valley. It was because of the hypocritical brother and sister, or simply the imperial family, that all hell broke loose in our hero's life. So our hero decided that even if they knew they were doing something wrong, their ego and character wouldn't allow them to live so peacefully. He understood it wasn't the best situation, but still, it was necessary to think positively, because Berdis and Charlotte could teach something even worse given their bad characters. In the end, our hero is in a position where he can freely use both. Zarka once again. Zarka cheered up as he had that time and said he admired our hero and his wisdom, but our hero just asked him not to look at him with such a sinister face. Our hero continued the lesson with his student. He didn't even think his powers would be released so quickly. He couldn't even believe that soon the future paladin would help the future demon king. So even if he thought about it, the use of divine power is effective, then why doesn't Adriana use it? So our hero asked why she didn't train with that power. What was the reason? She didn't even know if it was appropriate to say that, but she thought it wasn't natural to grow with divine power. It was even like taking an awakening potion that would kill him in the end. Since although divine power restores physical strength, it still can't replenish the nutrients in the body that are depleted during exercise. That's why she warned him to eat a lot, and to exercise with the support of divine power. Our hero understood that this power was only used as a stimulant. However, Adriana said that if our hero thought he had reached a certain level, he should do it by himself. However, the rest time had already passed during the conversation. So Adriana said it was time to start training again. Our hero looked back and saw Ludwig, who had probably gone to his morning training. Beside him were even the musical genius, Anthony, the archery genius, Dolph and Sarah. Initially, there was supposed to be a conflict scene, with the boys from Class A fighting over everything. However, since our hero had received all the offers from the house, Ludwig simply became a spectator. In fact, Valier was interested in observing the changed events, such as Ludwig's movement and Charlotte's survival. But on the other hand, it was also very frightening because he didn't know how the butterfly effect would cause him to return to himself when our hero, after training, arrived in the kitchen and surprised us by saying that neither she nor he would cook today, explaining that she simply didn't want to hear his comments about how he had helped her with the cooking. She said she would cook stewed meat, but our hero couldn't believe she had eaten something so delicious, although he wondered if she had cooked it herself. At least our hero was watching this and wanted to give more instructions, but upon noticing that she looked at him threateningly, he realized he simply wouldn't say anything. However, he didn't miss the chance to tease her a little, which made her even angrier, even to the point where she took a knife and let him know that things were not going well with her. But at one moment she was ready, so our hero said it was no shame to eat that dish for breakfast. He asked Ellen if it had been difficult for her to cook, and if she liked it now, but he looked at her and asked if she could eat it all. Our hero looked at her and said she was a glutton. He even realized that the first time he had gone to the temple, Ellen asked why, but our hero immediately answered that it just seemed like she was going to ruin her own family with a single trip to the kitchen. However, Ellen told him she hadn't gone to the temple of her own will. She was simply told to go to the temple. Our hero was surprised to hear such a story and asked if it was possible that someone had gotten angry with her and sent her to the temple for that reason. But Ellen was sure nothing had happened, although our hero saw her angry again and began to laugh. He liked the way she teased people. He laughed even louder, but our hero didn't know what sadistic meant. It was at that moment that Ellen really got angry. She took him to the training room and began to take revenge for his past arrogance. So it was Ellen who taught him each of her fencing techniques. She kept repeating the same thing, over and over. But our hero understood that learning from a strong girl was a situation he simply had to like. So why was he getting angry after all? He not only observed the swordsman's movements, but also practiced them, of course. Training in front of a live opponent was even more useful because thanks to sparring practice, our hero understood that fencing is not just about using the sword. It also uses everything one can, including fists and legs. Also, the impact of attacks from the lower body in the fight, and the importance of weapons other than the sword. She had taught him different types of fencing methods, attack techniques, and holding techniques. Our hero, of course, learned with his whole body when she hit him until he was battered. Yes, and there was something else he learned, but he definitely was not at the same level as his other classmates. So by Friday, 2 days before the duel, Helen had performed a strange trick, hitting the edge of the sword that our hero was holding tightly. She said fencing was becoming a useless occupation, because all our hero needed was the training they had just gone through. She was the one who would help strengthen his grip. She said our hero's grip strength was very weak, so they would repeat the same exercise until the day of the duel. She asked him simply not to let go of the sword while she hit him. Our hero was suffering a lot of pain during the exercise, but still tried to endure it. He even trained so hard he didn't know how much time had passed. The sword he was holding simply broke on the ground. It didn't hurt to break it, but it was very confusing. Ellen said that the training swords were initially very easy to break, but if the training sword is too good, it can become a dull weapon. Our hero said it seemed like she had already had that experience, but she told him he shouldn't throw his sword. However, when our hero went to look for a new sword, Helen shouted that he was just losing. Our hero said he knew, but she asked if he wanted to lose. Our hero said no one wanted to lose and get hit on the head. But why did she ask that? At that moment Helen got as close as possible to our hero and told him he could win using a certain method. Exactly, thanks to the method itself. However, a few seconds later, We immediately transported to the street where our hero had done his morning training again. The girl told him he had done very well, but that he should return to the path tomorrow. Our hero understood that tomorrow there would be a duel and remembered Ellen's words saying she had a way to win. She only told him that our hero had to think about what the fight really meant. And also that after that she said nothing, as if her mouth had filled with water. At that moment our hero asked Adriana if she thought our hero had any chance of winning. Our hero heard what Adriana had to say in a somewhat unclear way, which allowed him to understand that even she had no confidence in him. However, he realized it wouldn't be a big problem if he lost, because it was already time for the final battle. He looked at his stats and realized they had simply increased thanks to training, but still his heart was somewhat broken, and due to the skills that had definitely been shown or developed, he arrived at the battle site and saw there were quite a few people there. He even thought about the fact that there would be much fewer people. Many even shouted words of encouragement, but when our hero looked up, he saw that only Ludwig was shouting. He even saw that besides Berdis from Class A, there were also some from Class B. Charlotte. On the other hand, she was more apart. She even had the heel of her soul, and the little girl, who was sitting on the bench, told our hero that today they would hit him seriously, but our hero just told her to look carefully, and called her an easy woman. He looked and saw that even Regina and Adriana were there. But our hero was already standing in front of his rival, so the master decided to announce the start of the competition. He said that before the final duel, there could be a summary of the duel. He said that our grades, or rather the incident in which our hero had been involved, had insulted his honor, or rather Art's honor. He decided to read everything that was written in the report. It said that 2 weeks ago our hero had grabbed his crotch and squeezed it hard after claiming that his honor had been damaged, which caused him great pain in his heart and left him sexually crushed. A duel was demanded. The whole audience laughed, but Art had no time for jokes. Our hero could barely keep still from laughter. The master asked to name the reward for winning the duel. Art said that our hero would honor his elders all his life. But our hero said there would be none of that because the absurd actions of his elders that he had done so far only deserved that he promised them something, but everything seemed strange to him. So our hero decided he would only apologize. He wanted to start the duel. But Art said he would choose the true champion Mytone of Class 7, a one consummate duelist. Our hero did not understand what it meant to be a champion, but Mytone, who came out immediately, began to affect our hero. Our hero understood this could happen, but hit the second years. Much harder than he had planned it was at that moment that our hero understood his words about the duel. He realized that the person who fights instead of the duelist, with the legitimate right, is a champion or a warrior. That meant Helen wanted to be his champion. But she realized that was her only way to win with Helen's skills. It would be difficult to lose to someone like that, but when she looked at the stands she noticed Adriana was furious. She could be that she was so angry because someone from third year was outside. She even thought she was ready to duel for him, but the master already wanted to declare the duel. But Mytone interrupted again, saying he had a proposal, that the defeat should only be declared when one of the parties was defeated. The master didn't understand what he was asking, but Mytone told him he could see how it would end. He pointed at our hero, and said he only wanted to intentionally teach him a lesson in manners to our hero. The master asked our hero if he was happy with the conditions, but our hero was happy. Although he had his own conditions, everyone thought he would call his champion. But the only thing that happened was that our hero asked for a disadvantage. Everyone was surprised that our hero didn't call the colony. Maiden was surprised because he was really going to fight him. Adriana and Ellen were a little sad about this decision, but Mytone was happy because now he could only fight with one hand. Our hero understood that the ban on using one arm was a big disadvantage, but if he had been in the past, he would have thought otherwise. It was only through sparring with him that he understood the importance of the hand that does not hold the sword, which must mean that his training had not been in vain. However, the odds of overcoming this gap in the weight category were very small, but in front of our hero was exactly the same person who did not want to take Turin seriously. The duel began, and our hero launched himself at him, thinking a surprise attack was the best option. But as soon as he got close to Mytone, he almost took the sword out of his hands with a skillful move. Mytone stepped back toward our hero, telling him he was weak, but our hero intentionally cut only the sword because he knew why Ellen had given him this type of training. She knew that our hero could suffer with this kind of training. At that moment, our hero was hit with a sword that came out of his hands, and then was hit in the stomach. Mytone asked him if he knew what would happen to the person who left the sword outside. He kicked our hero's sword to the side and asked him to pick it up. However, as soon as our hero tried to pick it up, the third-year kid immediately kicked it to the side and asked him to pick it up again. Our hero reached the sword, but Mytone kept telling him he was so weak that he didn't even have a way to defend himself, nor outside support. Then, what was the reason for our hero's attitude toward the elder? He couldn't understand how a man like Valliere could have a look full of anger. He started hitting him again and again, asking if it was a duel. He started telling him to surrender. But our hero thought he already had enough pain. He thought not only his hands, but his whole body trembled at the seams. He simply couldn't win. Even though he couldn't win, he just wished he could smash Maitone's ugly face to pieces. Even if our hero was crushed or trampled, he wanted to punch him in the face. All he needed was one hit. Valliere ran toward him. He didn't care if he couldn't wake him or surpass him. He didn't care. Valliere's rage blinded him. He hadn't thought of using it originally, but there was no other way. He activated the grind, and knew that even with it he wouldn't lose. He certainly wasn't going to hold on any longer. He thought and understood that the moment his sword clashed with Maitone's sword, his sword would break, and only for 20 experience points. Could he hit him on the head? As soon as our hero's sword fell on Maitone's head, a new blow followed toward his groin. Valliere understood that, as he had said, the strength of the training sword was too low, and the probability of success was high, so he achieved it without spending too many experience points. Maitone got up and couldn't recover from the blow, but our hero knew he shouldn't give him a break. After all, if he woke up, he wouldn't survive. He attacked him from behind while Maitone tried to pick up his sword from the ground and pushed him down. At the same time, he began kicking him. But despite all this, our hero was not satisfied with the result, because he expected Maitone to at least faint, but at this rate he would surely die. However, Maitone pushed him aside and said that our hero shouldn't even think about giving up after such a trick. Our hero told him he wasn't even Barry to Knight 2, thinking about surrendering because he would destroy him. Valliere wasn't sure why he wanted to win, but Maitone's face gave him strength and he was angry in turn, because he knew our hero had started using dirty tricks again. But our hero only thought that he didn't like being beaten to death and mocked. It was sad to lose, but he hated even more to kneel and beg for forgiveness. But there was no way to win, and he certainly couldn't figure out how to hit Maitone again. Maitone was heading towards him, but our hero didn't care. He was just going to do everything in his power. Whatever happened, our hero only wanted one thing, to see Maitone's collapsed body at his feet. But then he realized he didn't want that. He realized that his desire to win was something he had to make sure of again. Now he remembered how his strength was growing. His strength had nothing to do with an extreme situation, because his strength was self-inflicted, and he should have believed in himself from the beginning. Our hero pointed his sword at Maitone and realized that one had to believe, even when no one believed in you, to believe until the last breath, because that was his strength as a stubborn child, like a fool who can only believe in his self-inflicted icon. The ability began to unlock, but our hero only asked to watch Maitone. After all, our hero would defeat him anyway. At that moment, our hero's self-humor awakened and distracted the enemy, saying that was his strength. Maitone couldn't believe that was even possible, and asked him to wait, but our hero began banging his head against the ground, and told him to surrender. He asked how that could happen, but our hero kept hitting him, saying the loser didn't need to know. Our hero said he was going to beat him anyway, but understood that his overcoming had been activated, which meant that the stronger his absurd beliefs were, the stronger his strength became. And since he was sure he could win, he became stronger. That is the essence of his cheating ability. Our hero lifted Maitone's head in front of everyone and said that he had attended the temple 2 years longer than our hero, and all his indicators were better. But why had someone as foolish as Maitone lost to our hero? He asked Maitone why he wasn't saying anything. Didn't he want to have a little more fun? But as soon as our hero lifted his head again, Maitone made a sound indicating he had lost. The master declared our hero the winner, and our hero gained 600 experience points. Our hero wanted to enjoy his victory a little longer, but fatigue overcame him and he collapsed right there. He woke up in the infirmary, and the sensation in his body was as if he had been under attack even though he was unconscious. But his victory was announced, so it couldn't be disputed. He woke up and saw his acquaintance Adriana, who told him that our hero had won and that she had fainted immediately. Now they were in the dormitory recovery room. Our hero realized at that moment that, besides the closed training room, there was also a rehabilitation room. But at that moment he remembered Maitone Adriana had understood what he was thinking, so she told him that that fool had been placed in the other room. But at that moment she got angry and asked if he knew they had met by chance and that she was ready to fight in his place. But she praised him because she would never have thought that the phrase from our hero, "I can be hit a little," meant that our hero wanted to awaken his ability. Our hero had asked if it was not okay that his result was worth it, but Adriana only said that it had been a very reckless action on his part. He had used his abilities this time, but he had really chosen them to be so during the 6 years of his training. But our hero turned around and said he wouldn't, because he thought the main ability had already been broken, so he would buy the rest of the talents. With experience points, however, Adriana remained in the room, because the situation could repeat itself, and if that happened, she was sure she would be the one to defeat our hero. Adriana meant that she liked the younger ones who should not be being followed like a mother. But our hero just said he was very grateful. And basically our hero was good, but unfortunately, Adriana didn't appreciate it. Adriana had stayed in the room with him for a while, after he woke up. But after he left the recovery room, following the treatment from the masters, they had a meeting with the doctor, or rather, with his main master. Our hero told the master about his ability, and the master said it was okay, because among the many abilities our hero had, there should be abilities that could be awakened.